This is a conversation with Éva Rambala. Éva Rambala is an international trainer of nonviolent communication based in Hungary. She worked closely with Marshall Rosenberg, and for me, she was a great source of inspiration in my journey in nonviolent communication. I hope you enjoyed this interview. My name is Ivana, and today it's my pleasure to welcome Éva Rambala. Éva was my first teacher of nonviolent communication. I'm really happy that I can ask you these questions about conflict resolution. So first, I'd like to know what's exciting for you at the moment in your work.
We are still at the middle of the Ukrainian-Russian war. And I have an enormous amount of emotional connection with Ukraine. And I am very committed to find my ways to support their fight. And finding my connection with Russian colleagues and exploring when do I need to take sides, practically how to keep loving connection with Ukrainians, even if I do trainings with Russians. And exploring this question from many different angles. This is a question where part of me wants to avoid it because it seems so complex and so hard to find my own authenticity.
Mm.
And I'm very, very grateful for what I have learned in the last year.
Okay.
Did I answer?
Yes.
Was I clear?
Yes, thank you. And I'm wondering, like, if you're in the position of a third side, and as you said, you're exploring this and you've learned a lot over the last year. How is that for you? Or what do you need to be able to be in that position? What does it take also inside to be in that place?
When this war started and I shared a post, Mr. Biden has as much responsibility on this war than Mr. Putin. And then some Ukrainian friends said they don't want to speak with me anymore, even if they enjoyed my trainings for a couple of years. And that was first very shocking. It's me wanting not to see a conflict situation only from one aspect. I want to widen my brain and to see complexity. And for me, it was never a question. I totally believe Ukraine has the right to keep its territory and its and realizing what I communicated was more my exploration and not something that I thought through what I want others to hear. Like as a trainer, I believe it's extremely important to differentiate. Am I saying something? Am I saying what I found in me? Or am I saying what I thought through and I am clear? I heard this question many times from Marshall, what do you want to hear in response? And when I understood, Ukrainians are not narrow-minded, but in order to survive, they need support. And the US gives them more support. So we don't criticize their strongest supporter. And at home, in my comfortable home and in my safe environment, I can have philosophical questions and discussions. But the people whose home can be destroyed any moment, or it is already destroyed, and their loved ones are in danger, or they already died, or severely injured, in that situation, they may not be interested in my philosophical questions and dialogues. So for me, this was a very big learning.
Mm.
And while having the, like, I've spent 20 years and I assume I have quite some awareness what's going on in me. And realizing I have an enormous amount of fear the Russian army is coming toward us. I'm scared to death. Freedom meant Russian army left. And now they are coming to our direction. So I just want to be empathic with my own emotional involvement. And it's very hard to be empathic, not noticing my emotional involvement after 20 years of practicing nonviolent communication and teaching it. So it's a difficult situation, but gives me a little peace. I'm not the only one for whom it's very, very difficult. Did I answer, Ivana?
Yes. And it brings me to the question, you mentioned this kind of awareness of your emotional involvement. And in the situation in which you are, what is it that keeps you, like you already mentioned it, like maybe not knowing, like knowing that you're not the only one for whom it's really difficult at the moment. What else kind of keeps you going? Or what is the source of your resilience in situations like this? I know you have your inner practice. I'm just curious how you do that.
I trained myself. Whenever I see lots of idiots around me or one big idiot, that means I am not connected with my feelings and needs. And sometimes it doesn't pop up in me immediately, but I practiced a lot. Whenever I criticize someone, either myself or someone else, that's increasing tension in me. And it's easy to get used to this tension. And whenever I'm connected with my own feelings and needs, and whenever I find my feeling, that's the most effective way of self-care. So my main motive is caring about myself.
You mentioned caring about yourself, and you also mentioned like being aware of the tension, that it's quite easy to get used to a level of tension. So that brings me, and you mentioned feelings and needs. How do you work with your body in these situations? Because this is like my area of interest. Like, how do we actually use our physiology to support us?
No. I don't work with body. The only part I use is my soul shrinking or is my soul expanding? And of course, I do a lot of running in the forest and my yoga and my breathing exercises and meditation. But on my trainings and on my NVC practice, I don't combine these two.
Yeah, but it's probably something that kind of supports you, because you said like you have trained a lot. So it's a matter of practice. You keep practicing a certain way of like being with others. And it's actually great to hear like, okay, you do some things also for yourself as a matter of self-care. And how does, when you mention the soul, I like that, like the expansion and the contraction, how does spirituality come into play in what you do?
How do you define spirituality?
The connection to kind of a force that can be supportive towards healing, for example.
Ivana, my dream target group are young IT guys. A couple of years ago, I finished in Stadtschleining, Austria, a school called Peace University. I got a master's there. And one sentence which is still with me, the economic power of a country can be determined how big percentage of society can code. Like not just use the internet and different applications and softwares, but can create them. And that was really like, wow. So there is I believe the power of future is partly in the hand of those young IT guys and their consciousness. I am not 100% satisfied how much I did to reach this group because I have a huge dream with primary schools and VC-based peer mediation, and I want to teach everyone. But IT guys are very close to my heart. And whenever I offer trainings, especially basics of nonviolent communication, sometimes I even asked people to sit through my training and give me feedback if they heard something that is not acceptable for engineers, in otherwise IT guys, religious people. So I would like to learn how to express my values in a form it can reach the greatest public. And among IT guys, there are many people who believe only what they can experience or what they can touch. So one of my definition of energy is what can be measured in kilojoule. You can hit with it and put it in an Excel file, the number. So I'm very careful being able to serve this group. My biggest help these days is Father Chris, who is a Jesuit priest from Sri Lanka, and he's an NVC trainer as well. And what he keeps telling me, we rarely invite him to Hungary, and he has a fun club, and we are laughing a lot about remembering him. And he says only one sentence: "Are you in the present? Are you aware what's going on in you?" So I am very clear. I would like to present my nonviolent communication trainings in a way which communicate clear values and can reach the most people, or I lose the least people. So at the beginning, I don't speak about spirituality. I have my spiritual practice, try to be in the present, separate what is automatically going on in me, what can I choose, like my first thought is happening with me, but the second thought I have more chance to choose. Did I answer?
Yes. So what I got from it is that you really want to reach people and to be able to choose a language that can connect with them, or at least doesn't disconnect them, and kind of relate to their experience. And yeah, that's what I hear, that this is important for you when you're kind of giving the message of nonviolent communication.
Thank you. How can I communicate the essence of nonviolent communication in a form that disclude the least people?
Yeah.
And when we are already connected, I have some friends who are engineers and who are educating me. It's energies, whatever you can measure in kilojoule, all the rest is esoteric bullshit. When we are already connected on the 10th training day, we can speak about energy, but not at the very beginning. And for me, if I translate my message into Christian version, whenever I connect with my needs, I hear God's message. The other version is whenever I really connect with my needs, I connect with my power to create my reality. So I believe if I just purely practice this process, that's already a spiritual path. For those who are practicing it not just mentally, but really put their heart in it.
I enjoy the simplicity of that, bringing back into to the practice. Yeah. And because my intention for this series is also to support young mediators, informal mediators, and I know that this has been also an area of your interest, I would like to know what, in your opinion, is important for a mediator to be able to serve parties in conflict.
How young your mediators? Because you may know my favorite project is NVC-based peer mediation for children aged 6 to 10. But I assume when you refer to young mediators,
it's
you
maybe
are
people
not...
in their 20s, 30s. I mean, people who, haven't been like formally trained, don't work with the court, are not formal mediators, but are offering their skills for support.
Yeah, I like to call it, like, when I teach mediation on my own more experienced trainings, I say I don't train professional mediators, but most of us experiencing very emotionally very difficult situations when two of our loved ones are fighting, two of our parents, two siblings, a brother, sister, or my parents, so around, or two of our children at home or in the playground. So everyone can serve as a mediator. Like, there are conflicts around us anyway. Even if you are not learning consciously mediation, you are there. For me, when we work in primary school, and I asked the teachers at the beginning what they experienced, the biggest surprise was for me, children age 8, 9, who were skilled to speak observation, feeling, need, request, which makes the mediator work much easier. And within a couple of months, they figured out the children are supposed to choose, the children who are in conflict, they decide who will be their mediator. And they very soon, they learned to choose a mediator who was not present to the conflict, because then the mediator is not taking sides. And this is extremely difficult to do when two of my loved ones are in conflict. So for me, the most difficult part for myself, and that's what I can recommend, first of all, to be aware of my involvement. Never lie to myself, I am neutral. I don't believe I can ever be neutral, but I can watch out very carefully when do I take side, and I can train myself not to take sides. And if it comes to this kind of closed mediation between closed ones, if there is too much power imbalance, do I really want to be a mediator, or do I want to sign up to support the one who has the least power? Because I can be much more authentic if I don't try to be a mediator, but more a supporter for one side where I am really biased. Did I answer your question?
So, and just so that I can understand, this support to one side that you mentioned has less power or maybe needs more support. Is it so you're transforming also your inner judgment, or how does that support look?
Let's imagine my father and mother has a big fight. And I agree with one of them. And I believe my father is extremely powerful. My mother is really weak. Do I position myself as a mediator, or do I position myself to emotionally support my mother because I believe she has much less resources to stand up for herself?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's very important in this position. I don't deepen enemy images about my father because he is my father anyway. Can I support my mom to connect with her inner power without hating my dad?
And I assume the way, I mean, besides the work that you do inside in this situation that you give, it's also like providing empathy for your mother, I imagine.
Yes, first of all, for myself, the question was, how do I experience it from inside?
Like, what do you do in a situation like that?
In those situations, when I remember, I didn't call myself mediator, but like I wanted to have a family meeting, and one person said, no way, he wouldn't come. And then I had my own images of him, and then the whole family was against him. And then, this meeting was important for me. So there were some situations, and I hope I won't be boring, but me just connecting with my own feelings and needs and realizing I don't want to get stuck with my favorite strategy of having this meeting. My real need is to support, to have more loving connection in our family. And whenever I was able to name this for myself, I was very grateful for the person who said he didn't want to come, because it was a great possibility to support, to have more love in our family.
Mm.
So that was the moment when I connected with my real power, and I wasn't anymore the victim of those idiots who didn't want, why don't you want to have a family gathering? That's, everyone knows this is what we learned, and this is the should in my head. And when from my head I went down, and then I realized, hey, I want to do my best. And then I realized this situation is just a great possibility. And the seeds I planted, they really blossomed in the next couple of years, because I didn't support anyone to criticize this person who didn't want to show up. I empathically listened to the person who was criticizing him and tried to convince the conversation of like, this is very hard for everyone. Maybe he has some pain. That's why he didn't want to come. Maybe this is too difficult for him. And of course, it was lots of pain and it was difficult. But for me, again, connecting with my own need, not to get stuck with my favorite strategy. Every idiot should know we should meet. But I want to do my best to support, to have more love in our family. What can I do in this situation?
So I hear how much choice there is in what you do, and how your choice informs like the strategy you take with regard to what your need is.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like when you look back, years back, when you started, or even before you knew Marshall, how do you see, how has your take on resolving conflicts evolved over the years? What were some of the interesting discoveries for you?
When people ask me, why did I choose this path of nonviolent communication? Lelki nyomorom. Probably the best translation is my emotional misery. So it's, when I started this process, I was more focusing on my own emotional survival. I have the image, and I don't want to discuss this. I had the thick thin. This is thin, and this is thick, or the other way around. This is the thick one, right?
Yeah.
This is thin. Okay.
Yes.
So I had the thickest, the most thick eyes around my heart in Hungary. Like so much disconnected from my own feelings and needs, and so much living in my head. So whenever I started to practice nonviolent communication, it was more like melting the ice around my heart. So it's conflict resolution is not the word which resonates with me. It's more like my emotional surviving. And when first I remember I wanted to be empathic with everyone, and it took me years to realize first I need to acknowledge and embrace my own pain and fear. And when I was able to acknowledge and stay with my pain, that slowly opened the gate for real connection with others. And for me, conflict resolution is the ability to connect on the heart level with people. Can I, when I run a training and someone is sharing something painful, and then the other participant comes and says, my child would never do like this, or I would never allow my husband to treat me like this. And then I'm ready to kill this person with my eye. Like, how can you hurt the one who was willing to share something about their vulnerability? And these moments when I want to protect those who share something painful, automatically my aggression comes up. And when it comes to conflict resolution, my big question is, how many perspectives can I keep in my head and in my heart? Like, can I be empathic with the beaten child? And can I be empathic with the person who was beating that child? And this is a very deep inner work. It's easier for me to do it mentally, but emotionally not to see people as victim and perpetrator, the good and the bad one, but to try to connect with everyone and still being able to use my power. That was a discovery only after I was able to connect with my own vulnerability. Was I clear?
The sense that I get from hearing you is like a lot of expansion. Like, yeah, not only on the level of, not only mentally, but also on the level of emotions. Like when you refer to the heart and taking in different perspectives. I mean, you have had a lot of experience, and I sometimes like to ask about like some memorable interventions. Sometimes people can respond to a situation in a very creative, out of the box way, kind of that brings like some surprise and changes the situation. So I'm wondering if you can recall such moments when either you intervene or you witnessed somebody else doing something in a situation that was very effective or unexpected.
What pops up in my mind, I was in Norway and my dear Swedish colleague Tova Windstrand educated me, Scandinavians has no temper. And the gentleman was standing at the middle of the circle and throwing everything to the floor, all his books, and papers, what was in his hand, and shouting at me, I destroyed his life. And it was a shock because this was not something I was ever imagining happening with me in Norway. And again, just empathic presence, just being there and being able to listen without being involved. That's for me the biggest power of how many seconds can I stay with the other person, even if they are shouting at me. I believe this is one of the most difficult thing, and no real juicy story pops up in my mind. My only message is just to, in training situation, it's easier for me because I practiced so many times receiving criticism. So, that has the biggest power.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to imagine the kind of moment. I hear a lot of practice is behind that. That like what helps us when there is like this kind of defensive reaction coming towards us, and if I want to stay in my empathic presence, what is the resource of, or what supports me being there besides the practice?
I don't know. In each introductory training, I offer chocolate for those who criticize me, and then I go through the ears. So I have, before COVID, I had at least 2 introductory per week. So each year, at least 100 times in front of public. I would never know who will criticize me with what, for what reason. And I know when the criticism really hurts me, and when am I grateful for it because they support me. Mm. You know, Marshall had this sentence: we human beings, we communicate only 2 things, please or thank you. When someone is shouting at me like this, probably they don't say thank you, probably they ask for something. Mm. My only answer is practice, the deep. You know, for me, again, is self-care and survival. As a nonviolent communication trainer, I started to research what really matters for people on an NVC training. And I was shocked, and I can still be angry because what I heard from most people, they observed the trainers, how they react in a situation which was not foreseeable. You know, I can prepare great plans, I can nice and coffee and nice design. What really matters, when something happens and I cannot prepare, can I use nonviolent communication or not? And that puts me as a trainer in a very vulnerable situation, because I don't want to expect myself to be perfect all the time. So, at the same time, I'm happy if I can earn my living by teaching nonviolent communication. Mm. So if I can role model this, then I can do the most of the time the job what I love the most, and that can help my survival if I'm in survival mode, or evolution. Mm. So for me, I have either I am scared and I want to survive, or I want to blossom and evolve. And evolution is extremely important for me. Evolution means when my heart or soul is expanding. I love that energy when I am this contracting or expanding. It came from I try to use good or bad as a taboo word on my training. But still, there is something, and that helps me this expanding. And whenever I am aggressive, then my soul is not expanding; it's shrinking, and that's not a moment what I want to create. So for me, it's, maybe this is an answer to spirituality. I don't believe I will be punished for my sins, but by them. And I don't believe I will be rewarded for my good doings, but by them. Which means to me, I don't believe after my death I will get a lot of punishment or reward. The biggest punishment is being angry, because I'm so disconnected from my heart is expanding. And the biggest reward is when I can give from my heart. Sometimes I have a kind of a conflict. It's more like a discussion with priests. And I believe doing good it's not enough. It's a waste of time. Unless it comes from genuinely my heart. If it's not coming from a joy of giving, then it's waste of time to do good. And many priests doesn't agree with me, because some of them believes you practice doing good and the intention will come. I believe this is contra-effective. So I want to experience more and more moments when my soul is expanding, I can give from my heart, and that's my main motive.
And what comes to me is that when you invite those moments and you offer chocolates for criticism, I remember that from your trainings too. And somehow I hear a huge, like, you love learning. That's what I get from it. And I'm wondering, do you like the challenge of it? Because you practice that a lot. Is there an element of like getting to the expansion through the challenge that it brings?
Not anymore. At the beginning, it was extremely exciting and challenging. Now it's so rare when people say something that's really touching my heart. And at the same time, something changes in the energy in the room. Mm-hmm. It communicates to people, this place is safe to be honest.
So I'm curious about resilience, and I can see this also as a way of building resilience, and resilience towards criticism, for example. But I love what you're saying about like communicating this place is safe enough for you to express something that you might not have liked.
There was one woman who came to many of my trainings, and then she gave birth, and then her focus shifted, and I asked her after a couple of years of NVC practice, what did it give to her? And I was so pleased with her answer. I don't worry anymore about criticism or feedback, because I know I can learn from it. And this is just part of human connection. The other person wants something from me, something they didn't get. And Ivana, I come from business. This is the cheapest way to research how I can improve the quality of my trainings. Because often people are more honest when I give them chocolate for criticizing me than at the end I ask for feedback.
Yeah, it's probably also more fun to do it that way. Yeah. I have one last question, Eva. How do you think, or maybe there are two questions and you can choose. One of them is like, if you had the magic wand and if you could change something in the world, what would you do as the first step? And the second one, which is probably related, how can we increase our societal resilience in these times of transition when there are lots of things happening?
Magic wand, I would like to ask for 3 more. And the first after these 3 more is I would like each government somehow to commit. It's not okay to kill another human being, even if they are not our citizens. As we are officially not accepting slavery, I would like officially not to accept to kill even enemies. It's okay to compete. You know, you guys, if you want to play war, go to this paintball and laser fighting, you know, these laser things, and then they in the evening they come back home. So I'm not against fighting, but no killing. That would be my first thing. And I am on one level optimistic we go to that direction. I don't know how many of us still need to die before we go there. And I know when you speak with army guys, they laugh and they believe it's just a girlish. But I strongly believe we go to that direction. And even if it's not, will not happen in my life, but I believe within a couple of 100 years, this will happen. And the other question was how to, we as a society, how can we be more resilient? Take better care of your neighbor. I met some women from Belarus, and we were brainstorming how to market nonviolent communication trainings in Belarus, where the situation is not so easy. And I recommended the title, How to Make More Peace with Your Family and Neighbors. And I was shocked with the answer. During those strong protests, if you had a tea on your porch with your neighbors and the other neighbor reported it to the police, you could be arrested because that was a sign you are self-organizing. And on one level, it was super scary. And another level, I believe those guys know something. They know the power of us getting together. And the more we can do it. And when I asked people in Kiev, where there are lots of 10, 20 store blockhouses, how is your relationship changed? And they said, we started to speak with our neighbors because those are the physically closest one, and we can help each other. And of course, I can have 20 more ideas, but be aware I can have an enormous amount of international network of support teams. I have it. But basically, when our house is in fire, then my neighbors are the one who are there. So it's, in one word, it's human connection. Extend your connections. And I can give only what I have. If I don't care about myself, I don't have anything to give.
I think that's a wonderful way to conclude, Eva. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best for your work.
Thank you. And thanks for creating these interviews. And I wish you and for your family all the best.
Thank you.